All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November meeting of the Town of McCandless EAC. Hi, Jack. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from October. John, thanks for sending those out. I did not have any comments. Does anybody else have any comments or additions, corrections?
I do not.
For minutes? Okay. Then we have a motion to approve.
Second.
There's motion and a second. All in favor, approval of the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Public comments. Don't have anyone here today. I just as a side note, I had a conversation with a resident on Monday. Her name is Bernie Lynch. She's actually a neighbor of mine. She had contacted, I guess she knows Brian O'Malley. She contacted Brian. I think she had applied for the technology committee. Apparently she's got a very, very extensive background in sustainability and grant and funding. She's worked with the city. She's worked with, I could not believe the experience she has. And
Did you
something
sign up?
I think we've passed our deadlines, and she says she does this for a living. She's not sure she wants to do it on the committee, but
The other thing I was gonna say is there were 0 applicants. For
Oh,
the vacant
were
position,
there?
So
okay. Okay.
if she's interested. she can-
Okay, well, we have to make some
Yeah,
phone
yeah.
calls. Okay. I'm not sure if we'll talk right, but anyhow, she said she might come tonight. I don't see that she's here, but just letting you know, I found a resident that, may be of some assistance in some of the projects we do. She also asked about if anyone was concerned with light pollution. I said, yes, we have a member that's very much into
Well,
it.
light bulb went
So,
off. Yeah.
So I
wish.
may, hand out her information, and I said, do you mind if we use you as a resource? She says, oh, absolutely. She's not sure if she, wants to apply for the committee or not, but sounds like she's just got tons of experience in the things we do.
Yeah, it sounds good, and I'm, I don't think there's any projects we would assign it to, so it would keep her commitment or time commitment down, but it sounds like she could add like institutional knowledge to a lot of things that we're doing, and just sort of keeping it. I mean, when you say sustainability and she does this for a living in grants, I mean, this is she's professional at it. I'm just, shingling in the fog.
Well, that's what
She's professional.
that's what I'm doing on all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shingling in a fog.
Somebody used that around 30 years ago, and I said, there's gonna be a day I'm gonna find use that. Sure enough.
But anyhow, I had a real nice conversation with her and just kind of wanted to throw that name out there. So I don't forget. And so maybe we can get her involved with our committee. So,
Well, if she doesn't, I actually talked to somebody yesterday too. And he actually called me. We just had a meeting to pick another council person. And so
Mhm.
that's why I'm late. Sorry. So I also have somebody that might be
okay,
interested.
great. Okay. Very good. Okay, project updates and discussion. Jeff, a lot going on.
Sustainability, lot going on. Again, reminding the group that our gold status has a date of December 8th of expiration. I'm not sure what that means or how solid that is. They know that we're working toward this, but we currently sit at 38.5% of our total points have been achieved. We have to get to 39%. So only half a percent away. That'll go.
And
Go.
that's for gold.
That's for gold.
Got it.
And there are other caveats to this, but and we'll achieve that, and we'll probably get up to 42%, something like that. We're at 324 points. We needed to be 276. So it's a little, we're going to get a little bit mired in numbers here.
Mhm.
But there are other issues that need to be achieved for gold status. And right now, and we've talked to Brian about those and John about those. So right now, I think that we are on a program. As you know, I sent out an email on Monday, sort of outlining the path toward reaching our December 8th goal. I want to submit our final response by December 1st, because I don't want to jam them the
Right.
day and expect them to say, okay, great. I mean, I have to at least give them a week.
Okay.
We can't give much more than that. So I want to submit by December 1st. I want to have our open issues cleared up. I want to have our gold status requirements achieved. We're getting there. So there are there are things that Brian has to address. There are open items for John to address. There's open items for me to address. And then ultimately, John and I need to complete sort of narrative. Each section has a narrative, and I'll have
Right.
2 questions. What did you learn from this?
Mhm.
And that's part of our completion process. So we'll just say, what we've learned is that upgrades to the building will blah 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 blah, our energy usage and different things, and we'll wordsmith that. So I would expect if we stay on the path that I've outlined for December 1st submission, we'll have good results. From there, then what we're looking for is 50% of the total points that you could achieve for platinum status.
Okay.
And I think it's only fair that if and when we achieve gold, which I suspect we will, we should at least see what is needed for platinum status.
Sure.
We know that Ross is a platinum community. I don't know why Ross will be a platinum community.
Are they really?
Yeah, and I don't know why they would be and we wouldn't. Right, John? When we were sitting in with Brian, it was Ross.
Yeah, I think. I still think they're going off like a 2015 or 2016 submission on that one,
Right.
so I'm not sure if
Okay.
or when they're gonna renew or not, but.
Okay.
And that's what tells me, Matt, you've been saying, well, what happens on December 8th or whatever. And, I think Ross is still riding the wave of some earlier submission of, 2016 or something, and they're still listed at platinum. So I don't think this is, I don't think it's going to be like, well, you're no longer gold as of December 9th.
Right.
I
And
don't
they
suspect
strip
that,
all our.
but I want to be good citizens, and I want to achieve the goal that I set out for myself in this group. So I want to then look at platinum. We'll look at that and see if that's something we want to sort of strive for. We'll see, that'll take me a day, and I'll outline that. And we'll go
What
from there.
percentage is platinum?
It's 50% of the total points, but I think we need 350 points. 350, 360. I think the total number of points is 700 and something, 708 or something. So,
Okay.
We already have 324. We're way past the 276 for gold. 324 is just slightly lower. And once we answer a lot of these questions, we're gonna be at 340.
Now, can I just ask a question? Is this pending their review and approval?
Absolutely.
I remember that from the last time.
Absolutely.
We had to go back and do some tweaking and.
But they're not like
Okay.
the IRS. These people want people to achieve. their
I
goal.
think that's true, but I also think that they are going to, I think they're also going to come back on a lot of stuff that we're going to submit, because some of it is, a lot of it's hard coded. What is a CELDO? Here's the CELDO. What is what is this ordinance? Here it is, 1303, blah, blah, blah. We've answered them, perfectly. There's other things that say, your greenhouse gas, monitoring greenhouse gases. Well, we can't really do that right now because we don't have any past knowledge of greenhouse gas emissions or emissions or whatever that is. So there's some things we can't answer.
But I think
definitively.
the answer you're coming up with is we're changing from boilers to this, and this is, the
And
next
going
step.
forward,
Yeah.
we will do that.
That they have to give us some.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some subjectivity to it. So I think
Mhm.
once we get past that, but I don't think it's just going to be like, rubber stamp it.
Right.
I think they'll come back with some questions. We'll have to answer some things. It'll sort of drag on, but like you say, it's something we want to all achieve together. And if we're this close and we're this many points and we've done this amount of work,
And if Ross can do it, we can do it.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm still optimistic.
Okay, well, that's great. And,
Mhm.
and once again, if there's anything any of us can help you with write-ups or anything, please.
And your bonus is contingent on.
I think at this point, copying Jack, copying you, knowing how close we are, keeping you informed to know that if there's a little nudge that needs to happen here and there, this is the time to do it. Up
Okay.
until this point, we all worked, toward a common goal. At this point, you just want to, we're on the 18-yard line. This is not a place to spike it. We want to get past the goal line.
Right.
And so, whatever help we need, we'll look for you guys.
Okay, no, sounds great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, roadway cleanups. Future plans, I guess as we discussed. we
Yeah.
Got rained out. Both of our attempts this year. And I think the main discussion we've had up to this point is from here going forward. Stick with one spring and one fall.
Yes.
But I still feel like we have to make sure we have. The personnel to get it done. Because we've lost the champion of that project. Was hoping we get someone else in here new as well, but we're never gonna replace Dave. As
Right,
far as
right.
the amount of effort that went into putting those together.
And the
So-
knowledge he had.
and the knowledge,
Yeah.
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 He lived that, and we've all realized as we tried to work as a team to get this done, that it's a whole lot of work. So I just we'll throw that out there, and I really think we need to think hard about what we plan and how we go about doing it, because I'd hate to have to do it the way we did it this time, where the last couple of weeks we're all trying to kind of scramble. But then again, we all have projects we're working on,
Mhm.
and I don't think there's any of us that really have the time at this point, unless somebody does want to step up and say, okay, I've got the time to do all this. Or maybe the answer is we still work with our committee, we just get started a little earlier.
I would think so. I think collectively. We have Winterfest coming up. We have projects we're working on,
Right.
so there's some trail work that's cleaning up, and there's some deer calling that's sort of cleaning up, and there's some ongoing stuff, and but I think it should be an emphasis of ours to do this and do it right.
And I agree, and I feel like we kind of missed as we were trying to pull these together this fall. There's other people that can help us that we didn't have the time to reach out.
Absolutely.
And to pull the whole thing together, we need to get started earlier, or have, one person that's really gonna go with it 100%. So,
We do.
First time through is always learning experience, so you don't realize how much you learned to make it easier next
right,
time.
right.
Well,
Hi.
By the way, who wants the picker-upper sticks?
I got some back, actually.
Oh, you got some too?
I got some back at least.
Okay.
So how many of those do we
So
have?
should I give them to you, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you mind holding on to those?
Oh,
You
yeah,
have the
yeah,
rest of the supplies.
yeah, I've got no little puzzle.
Okay.
so I would like to, I'd like to get started earlier. I'd like to pick a date earlier. I'd like to start putting it on, on McMail earlier. I'd like to try to get commitments a little bit earlier from council. I think we need to make this a number 4 community event, like Winterfest, Community Day, blah, blah. We need to somehow make it a community event that people come and realize they're part of something larger than them just being out there with a stick or gloves by themselves. They need to come and think they're a part of something. And somehow we have to figure out how to do that.
Mhm.
How do they become part of something? How do they become because what other community project a collective community project are we asking people to be involved in this community? Really nothing else. I mean, there's little things here and there, but this is something that everybody can be involved in. It
Right.
takes no knowledge other than picking up a piece of paper.
They do it in Hampton. I mean, they get
Yeah.
like crowds of people.
Absolutely. Penn Hills, 150, Hampton, 110. I saw some people down at the Arboretum, and I started talking to them about it, and they're like, she's like, well, and they're Hampton people, the same woman that we had from the EAC, the
Okay.
exact same one.
Oh, Liz?
Beth?
Liz. Not the North Hills, but the woman who spoke when we went to Hampton
Yeah,
EAC
Liz
community.
Spence,
Okay.
yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, we just had ours. It was one day, we had 120 people. Everybody was involved, different things.
Right.
We need to somehow make this to be a commitment of ours and councils for one day. one day, not 2 days, not light.
Right,
It
right,
needs to be somehow be a commitment.
One day with a rain day.
Exactly
right.
right, exactly right. And then the other thing is that there is this thing, it's called Young Ambassadors of Pennsylvania program. And it was in the Post Gazette this weekend.
Mhm.
And sure enough, here's a kid from Penn Trafford, where I raised my kids. There's Norwin, there's Bentworth, there's West Mifflin, there's Franklin Regional, there's Plum, there's Highland.
Mhm.
Who's bigger than North Hills? And we don't have anybody involved in this. So I think that we need to somehow come to this through the students as well to get their buy-in on this.
Okay,
And I don't know how to, I'm gonna ask that maybe we take a look at, and I send you the link, and we look at this Young Ambassadors of Pennsylvania program, and maybe we can have somebody tell us what this program is, how kids get involved in this, and how we spread the news of participation through the NA school district. If I don't have any pushback on that.
is Matt looking it up?
I was not. I was looking up ways to get community people more interested in litter cleanup.
Could I add a little bit about the roadside cleanup when you were mentioning that?
Please.
So one of the things that I noticed this year is that like we planned it for a certain date and then like how that information got out wasn't exactly like completely immersed. Like I didn't really.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to say hello to the environmental committee. Nice to meet you all. My name is Jason Singer. I'm Ward 4 council person. I was previously chair of this committee, but I left it in wonderful hands.
She's gonna take us from gold to platinum.
No, that's Jeff.
Thank you for all you do. It is a very important part of the town, so we appreciate all your volunteer and support. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jason.
That's how we
Thanks,
did that.
Good
Jason.
to see you.
And so with the recycling project, like when we had a certain date and then because it got canceled, it immediately was going to the next weekend, I believe, right?
Right,
And that throws people off, that changes things. And with like little notice, it's difficult. Like you asked about personnel and having enough of those. I checked the Interact list for students from North Allegheny who are interested in it. There's a good 20-30 kids, I'd say, and we could probably get further with that if we advertised it correctly.
okay.
Like in terms of like community outreach, I think we have to do a really good job at like actually like talking to people. And like I know that like we post these things on social media or we advertise them out, but people like they look at it, they scroll, and then they move on to the next thing.
Right,
They're
right.
not like if I were to knock on someone's door and be like, hi, they're more likely to be like, oh, like there was this weird occurrence where this teenage girl just like asked me about this. Then like having that I think would be a way to work. So I feel like if we just like found people in neighborhoods who were very like friendly and who are like outgoing and social and we asked them to help us, I think when we target those individuals or people who really like genuinely care about the community who might not know that the EAC exists, because if I go to like my school's environmental club and I say, how many of you guys know this? I don't think that like the majority of them would be like, oh, I'm well aware about what this does and how they function. So.
And I think the last meeting, we kind of threw around some ideas and we were hoping to get some video footage of people doing the cleanup and you were gonna help us or maybe work with Dawn or somebody to do a little TikTok thing for us. To somehow make picking up litter look cool.
Yeah, if you like, if it looks like a fun game activity, it's like,
Right.
or you see someone like chasing someone, like things like that gather people's attention because they're like, oh, what are they doing? I want to do that. They want to suddenly be part of the group. But if you're like, hey, do you want to volunteer time on your Saturday? So I just think like essentially it's not always the fact that like people don't want to do it. I think it also depends on who we ask and how they can branch outwards, because some people are just going to say no and other people are going to be like, oh my goodness, I love this idea. I'm thinking of like, do we allow children on these things or is it like children?
Mostly, well, some people bring them as families. I know Matt brings his daughter along. We also normally have some outreach to some scout troops. Girls, brownies, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and that's something I don't think we didn't have that outreach effort going this time because we weren't ahead of the game. So that's normally part of our outreach effort. So we need to get back on that as well.
But we have to be mindful where we put them. We can't put them on a busy road. We can put them down in a park, like
Yeah,
Festival Park or
Right,
something.
and we do have, I think 4 different locations that are all off-road. Around the schools in the parks where we can send the groups of younger kids.
I think that like if you advertise this to like young parents with children who are like of a decent age where they would be interested in doing it, I think there would be more of an energy because typically with young children, they just like they have so much energy, they just want to do everything, right? So they'd be like, oh, I'll just come over and but like you can make it as a competition. Who can pick up the most litter, right? Then you have all of these kids with like a whole sugar increase, just like running around, picking things up, and obviously not on the road because that's unsafe. But if we had like groups of like, okay, here are adults who can be on the roads who are like capable of doing that, and here are children who can't be anywhere else, and then you can find your locations and appropriately put them there. I think like once you get like soccer moms, once you get like one of them invested, you get like a whole community of people.
Right, and that's something we do try and focus on when we can get some groups out there, but that's some great insight. Thanks.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I can tell you from my experience that the young children are excited about it and involved for about 30 minutes at max. Then they are done.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's-
just as an FYI, but that's okay. I mean, I think that you can, depending on the locations and things like that, you can have situations where it's like, okay, well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do 30 minutes of cleanup, and then you can run around and play for a little bit, and then you're going to come back and do 10 minutes more, and then we're going to be done. You know, like if those groups are smaller and doing a little bit less or a little bit less time, it's just finding the right cadence for them.
Mm.
Sorry, Jeff, what were you going to say?
So, National Honor Society has a community service requirement. Anybody else, is it Key Club? I mean, any other clubs inside of NA have service requirements?
I am unaware of that. I don't know. Archie, do you know?
I think student council might have a few things. I think they do. It's just they have their own little like projects intertwined. I know Interact definitely is doing a bunch of stuff with this, and I think NHS, that's for seniors, so I don't know that much about it. I can reach out, but NHS and I think student council would be, because student council does a lot of advertising, and so they're like the heart of the school basically.
We should do it in a way that kids have something to put on their resume, because they're all building resumes so they can get into the best university of their choice. So we should make it a worthwhile statement on there.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Matt, you had reached out to Ms. Lombardi last year. I know there was, she came back with a really long explanation. I guess we questioned her about service hours and was NA ever going to require that? And there was and she had a very long and thoughtful response on just the demands on these kids. And why it's hard to sometimes get that much participation, and it was kind of overwhelming what these kids are doing already. But just kind of keeping that in mind, why sometimes it's limited what we can get. From
So-
those groups.
I think also, I mean, I think that this is a good route to explore, but I think we also have a very large community of adults and things like that as well, right? So I don't think that we have to necessarily depend on only kids to be our only path here. There's a wider path as well. And one of the things that just doing a quick search, and I wasn't aware of this, and maybe others are, Keep America Beautiful has a Great American Cleanup that they sponsor. And this is a thing that happens all over the country on a particular day. And I feel like if we kind of got involved with something like that, that might be something that we could, that might draw attention. And I don't know, I have to read more about it here on the website, but it's like you can kind of sign up your group and they get communities involved, and it's a nationwide thing that all happens at the same time on the same day type of thing.
What's
And
the
I wonder
date?
if the date last year was March 20. Well, actually, I'm sorry. It's not all on the same day. I apologize. It says it's between March 21st and June 22nd. So I'm sure it has to do with, what your climate is and things like that. but I have to read more about it here. So, but anyway, I feel like maybe that's a thing. Maybe we put a little prestige behind this.
Mhm.
And that gets people more excited about it or something like that. I don't know.
It's a good idea.
I like it. I like that.
That sounds great. John, you're gonna need some dates here pretty soon, right?
Yeah.
If you're gonna put them on the calendar,
Mm.
when do you need that?
2 weeks later.
So,
Oh.
has anyone looked ahead at all at the dates for?
Well,
next
we,
year?
we don't want any dates at the SAT or PSATs or anything like that. I mean, I know that's, again, putting the emphasis on school. But
Right.
I think we want to try to find a clean date.
It's gonna be really difficult.
Yeah,
'cause
not opening day
it
at
is.
Trout.
SAT is like, and then if you take SAT, you've got ACT, and then you're gonna find like,
They're
you got the
almost every-
PSAT,
Yeah,
because they rotate the
Mhm.
standardized tests,
Yeah.
and if you target May, I can give you like a 90% guarantee that you won't have like high schoolers coming, because that's AP testing,
Yeah.
and
Right.
like, that's
we're-
gonna be like a whole thing of its own.
Okay.
We don't
We're
wanna have
talking
people.
March 22nd, March 21st through April 22nd. You've also got Easter.
June 22nd.
Oh, June. Okay, I thought that was just, I thought you said March. Okay, so we have a much longer.
It's pretty wide
We
thing.
wanted to do it before
But
the
we-
vegetation. gets
Yeah,
there.
that's,
Yeah.
Ken's got the good point. We try and do
I
that before
agree
everything
with that.
grows.
Yeah.
So that's why we generally do these in April, correct?
We do. We do.
Around Earth Day type of thing.
Yeah, it's usually Earth Day.
Which would be, the closest would be April the 20th. So we'll be talking the 20th, 27th. We also run into on some of the fields, they have opening day, like Vestal Fields, around that time, I know they have their opening days for baseball and softball,
Trout,
because when is Trout?
it's gonna be
April
in that summer.
15th or something.
Isn't it like the Monday after Easter?
No, that's Saturday to Saturday.
Okay, okay.
Just like
So why
around
don't
the
we work on
15th
that
of
those
April.
dates together, I guess.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
we need to get
Yeah.
that going, okay. But you need those in before Thanksgiving.
and Matt and Judy, I'll send you guys the link on this article.
Okay, and Matt just sent out a link on Great American Cleanup.
Do you mind if I give Arch this
No.
article?
Of course not.
Yeah, I found there's a website for that, Young Ambassadors of Pennsylvania also. That's the Keep PA Beautiful, right? Young Ambassadors.
Yep, that's right. An affiliate of Keep America Beautiful.
Yeah, there's a website for that as well. So
Okay.
I'm looking at that now.
And as we
Okay.
do those dates, Archie, is there still, is there an easy place to find what the testing dates are?
Yes,
Is
I
the
can,
College Board,
I can like send it to you. I'll like find them online.
could you
just
do
to-
that?
I'll
That'd
give
be
you the
great.
whole
And
list of
do
things.
they have them all the way up through the fall?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they
So
have
if you
it.
could send me like April and October,
I don't know if they're all out, but I can send you all the ones that are out.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Also, what's the weather like in April if we're gonna do this?
Oh, it can be just as variable as it was in October.
So is it gonna be like very cold or like,
It can be. It's very, so we've had the same issue. We've had them canceled because it was cold and sleeting.
mhm,
We've had some gorgeous days.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, we're just gonna have to set one and have the next weekend hopefully is a rain day.
Yeah,
Because it's,
Chances in April having a freezing day is pretty small.
okay.
but it has happened.
I think that though too, if we advertise it as it is scheduled for this date with a rain date of blank,
Right,
that
right.
that helps, right? Versus we're gonna do it this day, people sign up for that day, and then they don't even consider anything
Right.
after
And-
that. If they're kind of aware, maybe that's helpful.
And I think we've done that in the past. Correct me if I'm wrong, John.
I think we have, yeah.
So, okay, then, Jeff, you and I can work on a date
Mhm.
and we'll, first of the year, make sure we're rolling on this stuff.
Good.
Is there July? Is that too hot?
Well, between the heat and the fact that the vegetation's all real high
Really?
and it's harder
And the
to.
poison ivy.
Poison
Okay,
ivy.
that's the
too.
dry time, so less rain delays. or
No,
rain
you're right,
cancellations.
you're right.
Have we ever considered doing something in the summer? with
I don't
this?
know. Have we ever?
Not in my experience, but
I don't think we've ever discussed it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Summers is rough because the vegetation and stuff, it's really hard to get around.
Mhm.
You also find a lot of people traveling and just not being in town and things like that. And I feel like you run into a bunch of different problems, which we do for all these dates. So,
Yeah,
you know,
doesn't matter,
why
yeah.
not? You know,
Okay, any other thoughts or comments on the roadside cleanups? All right, thank you. Next, Grant Trail updates.
I'm gonna actually throw much of that to Jack because I've been pretty much AWOL the last month.
Okay. Anything new? I know I've seen, we've gotten some good publicity and
We have signs now.
do you? Okay.
Yeah, and the site, I'll send it out. I took pictures, but I failed to send, I'm sorry. They say the trail is 0.93
Okay.
miles long.
yeah.
It's like they shorted to 700ths of
Is
a
it-
mile. So we didn't get the full mile. So when we reroute it, we'll make sure we get that
Okay.
700ths.
And is that routed all the way to the park now?
Yeah, well, what
Just
we
up
did is
along
there's
the-
a parking lot adjacent to the park.
Right,
The
right.
park's still closed
Mm-hmm.
because we're using the park to get some deer. We're allowing a guy on the field with a blind so that he can, because there'll be 17 deer in there in an evening.
Yeah.
So we'll just keep it closed. Everything works out great where this little parking spot is. Ricky Horton and I went over and redid that piece where it gets really muddy over where that pipe is.
Mhm.
We dug it out, we put in stone, then we put in matting, and we put in more stone. I walked over today with Ricky and a guy by the name of Philip Solomon, who is on the board of directors for the Montour Trail, which
Okay.
is about a 45-mile long trail.
Oh, I'm very
It-
familiar.
it's a beautiful trail,
Mhm.
but it's an old railroad bed.
Right.
So it's no greater than a 2% grade. It's almost pancake level flat and it goes forever. It's beautiful. I have some really nice brochures and plus they teamed up with who took over for the hunting and fishing place up there in Cranberry. What's the name of that? It's owned by
Oh,
Dick.
yeah, sure.
Public lands.
Yeah,
Public
public
lands.
yeah.
They gave them a $2,000 donation to do flyers.
Mhm.
So it's a really nice flyer. So we should probably be talking about doing a flyer explaining the trail so we can get the name out there and what have you. Anyhow, he's a specialist of building and maintenance. I wanted him to take a look at that upper section.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've been there since we've worked on it, but
No, I was there a month or so ago.
okay. So we go 3/4 of the way from Wall Park to the fill site. And then we hit wetlands.
Mhm.
So I wanted to pick his brain on how you get around having a trail in wetlands, because ultimately it'd be a much easier trail if we could take it all the way down to the last little segment before you have to go up to the
Mhm.
dump site.
Mhm.
I think that'd be very, very beneficial. So trying to come up with a cost-effective and EPA approved way of building that out. So it's a nice trail. Go walk it.
That was
Nobody's
good.
walking it.
I did.
Well,
I did.
I mean,
Back out.
the society is,
Well, I
you know,
They-
we need to get these youngsters out, get some exercise. And the work Dave did and Ken did, getting it all cleaned up down there. We got all that trash hauled out. And it's pretty pristine right now, although there is one tire down there we need to get out. I got a mouse in my pocket. I love it. I really do.
Very good. All right. Thank you. Next up, deer management update.
Of deer management, they're have more hunters this year than last year. They had a pretty good September. They're last week, the first 2 months, September and October, this year and last year, they're pretty much the same. We're like have harvested 40 deer. So it's one of those things of the program's growing and getting more properties involved in it now and more hunters involved. That we're making headway. It's still, when I've talked with a number of people, it's like with the one homeowners association, there's a number of people that are anti-hunting, so you can't get it brought in and things like that. So it's something that we need to continue to work on. There's a couple of properties that I'm trying to catch the people when they're outside so that I can stop and chat with them and see if we can get them involved and stuff. But it's they're moving along with increased hunters, increased properties, and hopefully we'll get the harvest up, moving up here too. So it's, you know, the number of deer in my backyard, I'm down to only like a half dozen a day in my backyard now. So
Okay,
that's an improvement. So the guys between my house and North Park I've talked with all of them. They're not part of Suburban, but I've talked with all of them about, you know, harvesting the mature does for the population control. And so hopefully they're starting to do that more rather than waiting for January to do that.
okay,
So we're making progress.
good.
We added a new property yesterday, by the way. And when Suburban Whitetail went over to talk to her, there were 7 deer standing there. They were talking to the lady.
And they're not like deer up at my cabin.
These guys don't care.
I have a picture that I took yesterday of a 5-point buck as I came around the corner to go feed the birds, and he's literally from me to Jeff.
Right, and
And
they
he
just
just
don't.
stands there and looks at me, you know,
What are you doing?
so it's and it's the ecological damage to the forest. I mean, there's no regeneration. All the native wild plants and things they're just wiped out, and we can't get that stuff back until we get the deer population under control.
Now, when we do get them under control, will they come back? Are the seeds and everything still there? Will they
That'll be something we'll have to actively do.
really?
We'll probably have to fence off quarters and try to keep the deer out until it can get established.
But what they do a lot with, you know, with timber management is they have 6-foot high fence that they block off like an acre,
Mm-hmm,
and for 3 to 5 years to let it get reestablished,
Okay.
and then that fence is movable so
mm-hmm.
that you can move it. So that you can go through sections and bring it back.
I have a question, and I know I have no idea what the answer to this question is, so that's why I'm asking it. I know I get people being uneasy about this. I myself am a little uneasy about, you know, hunting and hunters being near my family or my home or anything like that. So I get that. I also totally understand why this is necessary, and that's why I support it. But is there any other method that we can use for population control of these deer aside from hunting, or in conjunction with the hunting, that can, is there any other way?
This is something that is a perennial question. Whenever there's a deer issue, people come up with, well, why don't we shoot them with pellets that will, so that they can't conceive and stuff like that. When you get all said and done with it, the only thing that seems to work is doing what we're doing with the managed hunting. And to some extent, some areas get involved with doing a more active culling program where they, you know, Fox Chapel actually had an area where they put food out for the deer to come, and then they have sharpshooters that reduce the population. Any other alternatives? We're kind of faced with using cars to control deer.
I think Matt's looking for a solution where you don't have to kill the deer. Is that it, Matt?
Well, I'm not, I have no idea. Like, I'm just saying, like, if we have this population problem, we have to deal with it. If we're running into problems with a certain percentage of our, you know, of the community saying, I don't want hunters around here, and that's limiting the number of deer that we can take out of the population and the amount of control that we can get, we may never get it under control using this method. If it's the only method we have available, then I guess there's nothing we can do. But my question is there anything else that we should be examining or seeing if it can work or trying along with this? Or are there any other avenues? And again, like I say, I have no idea what the answer is to this. That's why I'm just curious if anybody else knows if there's something that else that we should also try in conjunction with this. Because I don't want to get to the point where we have to say, well, we can't get enough hunters getting rid of enough deer, so they're just never going to be under control. Like, I don't want to get to that point, right? And I don't know.
One thing I'll suggest is I believe it's still on the website. Janine, the whitetail biologist for the Game Commission, and I did a Zoom
Presentation.
hour and a half presentation on deer management, and Janine went through a lot of that stuff. The bottom line, the deer population will double in every 2 to 3 years. So it's something you have to have an ongoing program at all times, and it's really hard to knock the population down far enough that you get natural regeneration. You have to substantially knock it way down. We're not going to do that here. You can get into things like people will say, well, can't you trap them? Well, two issues there. One, no one wants them because everybody's got a deer problem. And two, only about 30% of them will survive the transport. So it's the only thing that really works is with a adequately dispersed hunting program over time, like they've done in North Park for the past 25 years. But then those deer just move into McCandless when they start getting hunted in the park, and that's we can't keep them under continuous. We can't give them safe zones to go to. So it's and then the Fox Chapel solution of in the middle of winter baiting them in with food and culling them that way. Those are about the only things that you can do. Mount Lebanon spent a lot of time looking at it. And several other communities in the South Hills. And it's generally, it's not so much that people don't want a hunter in their backyard because of the stipulations of how they have to be in an elevated stand and so forth. And background checked hunters and all of that. The issue really comes down to is people don't want you to kill deer. Like I have a couple of neighbors that I'm not supposed to realize they're doing it, but they feed deer. And we even have an ordinance that prohibits that. But it's one of those things that some people they don't understand. Like if we have a hard winter this winter, because we have such an out of balance buck to doe ratio, a lot of the does are getting bred very late. And so we have these really small fawns that are only 40, 50 pounds. We have a hard winter this winter. The adults can stand up on their hind legs and get browsed. That 40, 50 pound yearling is going to die. It's going to starve. So it's the humane thing is to get the population to where it needs to be.
So so that sounds to me then like we need to increase, or somehow the town or the county or whoever or us, I don't know, needs to increase the education that we're doing, right? Because if there is no other path out of this than this, and we have people who are saying, oh gosh, it's so inhumane to kill them, and or they don't want hunters, or whatever the reason is that these hunters can't do this job that needs to be done to the degree that we need it to be done, and there's no other path, then we've got to make sure that people understand what's going on and why, and get them on board, right? I mean,
and again, that's why before we started any of this, we had a questionnaire that went out through McCandid. We had 985 responses to that. Virtually none were against the program. That's why we did the presentation. It was during COVID, so it was on Zoom. There were 200 spots available. All 200 spots were taken. That video and information is still available on the town website, and maybe we should publicize that that's there and for more people to take advantage of viewing that because Janine does a really good job of discussing the deer population and everything that's going on there. And my part was is that when you have too many deer, the ecological damage that it does, you have fewer songbirds and fewer squirrels and chipmunks, and you don't, the elimination of all of our native wildflowers and all of that type of thing. So it's more than just the too many deer problem. It's also the ecological devastation that goes with it.
Yeah, we're fighting instinct, right? We're fighting 55 years of Bambi. So that's a tough hill to get over, and we just have to make sure we do it.
Matt, it's also probably a part of the problem is a byproduct of COVID because people weren't driving. And so they weren't hitting deer. So every deer that survived, most likely the majority of them would give birth to two more twins or a set of twins. And that set has had another set. So it's just exponential. And it's a very tough problem. Ken and I both talked to the Pennsylvania Game Commission. We've had meetings with people that have different programs. It's just really tough. We're trying.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I want to support it. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. I want us to find ways to make this more successful. That's it. That's all there is to it.
And again, I think that program that Janine and I did, Janine just did a really good job of explaining the population dynamics and all of that. And it's that's what we put that out there for education so that we would have hopefully little or no pushback when we started this, but there's still people that just say no. And I'm not going to change their mind.
We just got to start a smear campaign on deer, folks. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all there is to it.
I would agree.
You gotta make deer the rats of the town, you know?
Yeah, it seems like we should we should highlight that too Ken, when's the last time that we used that information or that like you said, we have that on file, we have that whole seminar and you have a link to that. When's the last time we used that as a tip?
I was just writing that down.
Yeah.
Idea. Yeah, maybe
This would be this month would be an appropriate time.
Mhm.
That's it.
okay. Then maybe we can include a link to that presentation. Can we do that, John?
Yeah.
John and I get with Brian and talk about what we can do to,
Do for a
Yeah.
tip.
but we also have to be cautious because we don't want to overcommit and undersupply our hunters. It gets, it's a balancing act.
Right. But well, let's look at, I'm looking at this as just public service and once again, why we're doing this and
It's really not the preview of the municipality to manage deer. We're just doing it as a value add.
okay, can we plan on doing that as a tip? And if so, who will be writing it? Is there someone that can,
I guess
can you do that for us, Ken?
All eyes on you, Ken.
Big shoulders.
No, I would appreciate that. That does sound like a timely thing. Okay. And the date for that, John?
How about the 29th?
Thank you very much, Ken.
It's a highly sensitive thing, so we have to make sure Brian's on board with.
Well, and
What
what
we-
we can do if you can give a little bit of time to make sure these guys can review it before it goes out. And we shouldn't need to say too much. It's
People
Yeah.
know.
repeat what's already out there.
Thing I'm just basically going to, in the verbiage part is talking about the deer population and the ecological damage that they do.
Okay.
I'm approaching it from that.
Nature will solve this problem. If we don't get the herd down, a disease will come in and take out the herd.
Yeah, and part of the problem with people feeding them is that's what way you transmit the chronic wasting disease and
Right,
stuff,
I do
and
remember
that's,
that.
if you've seen deer with that, and by my one property, there's an area that with the regulation area because of the chronic wasting, and basically they, if you've seen a deer going through that chronic wasting, you don't wish that on anything.
Yeah.
By the way, if you do get any complaints about all these gnarly things on deer, they can look like they have serious acne. I mean, it looks
That's what-
so bad and
yeah.
so uncomfortable, but it doesn't hurt them and it doesn't bother them. It's just,
Okay.
they look
Okay.
like heck.
Okay.
What do you call that? Do you remember? They look like barnacles.
I forget what it's called at this point, but
Nice.
they get, they're out there and they're exposed to all the ticks and all of that. And
Yeah.
that's
All
also a problem with excess deer population is the increased number of ticks and
Certainly.
things like that.
right. Yeah.
What's this new deer tick, this flying deer tick? My wife was just telling me about. Anybody hear about this?
A new one?
Yeah, there's like a tick that can fly, like a deer kid or deer kid or something like that. Anybody? I guess I'm the only one I heard about.
They jump through static electricity.
What?
Deer
Deer
ticks.
kids, deer ticks?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
they
how
don't
they-
even jump. They just are transported. by
But these
static
things have
electricity.
wings. And they're like new. They were down in Virginia and I guess they're making their way up here. They also spread limes. I'll find out more about that, I guess.
All right. All right, thanks. Appreciate the timely reminders of going on with our program, so. Next up, Archie, do you have a report for us this month?
I do, but it's very short.
No, that's perfect.
So I was going to mention the roadside cleanups, but you already did, so I feel like we can just gloss over that, but I was.
Well,
going
and
to tell
if you have any other, comments or suggestions that we haven't touched on yet, please feel free to add them.
Mhm.
Or,
I don't have much updates about the Interact things. I will speak with Mrs. Lombardi on that,
mhm,
but that's also something that Interact is doing. I know you gave me those materials, so I'll get that to her tomorrow.
great, thank you.
And then I was supposed to do like a community project,
Mhm.
and so I had some ideas and I came up with this. I don't know how well it'll work, but I was thinking of doing a recycling project. And so
Okay.
to learn more about how we can effectively recycle. So part of it will be research because I'm genuinely not like an expert at all in this to like be able to, construct it appropriately.
Mhm.
And then another component of it will be getting community members involved in whatever that kind of goes with.
Okay,
So,
okay.
to see how we can.
That sounds very good. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with PRC, is it Pennsylvania Resource Council? I believe they are like the best resource for recycling around here. Is that? And John here is a very good resource as well. You're in charge of the recycling for the town pretty much, right?
Let's not get crazy now.
Well, we won't say in charge, but I'd say knows more about it than anyone else in the town. You do have some sort of a title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it time for a tour of the recycling plant? I mean, is this something, or is that going way farther than Archie needs to go, do you think?
I don't know, because I still have not been on one. They
Yeah.
did one, not this past summer, I'd say summer of 2022.
Mhm. I couldn't make it either. so-
Yeah, I missed it. I'd still like to do that, so that's,
Worthwhile, I
Yeah.
mean, to see all the equipment they have and how they.
Would that
That might
help
be a
you?
good way to draw
Yeah.
the students in too.
Absolutely. So, John, can you arrange that?
Yeah, I just want to think about timing too,
Yeah.
because obviously, Archie, you have school during the day, which is kind
Right.
of limiting as far as scheduling. So I'm not sure.
Would that be a better summer event for students?
I mean, I know at least next summer I'm gonna be pretty caught up with a few things,
Mhm.
but I think summer is tricky because a lot of people have things going on, like at least high school students, like
Well, and technically even your position only goes to the end of the.
Yeah,
school
that's what
year.
I was gonna say.
Right,
I was gonna
right.
mention
So,
like,
we're not
I was
going
like-
through the summer as
I was
well.
like, yeah.
And when's your project due? I'm
I
sorry.
think it's due in June from what I understand.
Yeah,
So,
the
okay, so-
May, June timeframe, right?
Yeah.
Is a tour, would that fit any class? You know, the students,
Ecological club or something.
you know,
Honors environmentals. Oh, I don't know if you know about this, but next year they're offering AP Environmental Science at North Allegheny for the first time.
Oh, they haven't had that before.
They haven't done it, and they're doing it my senior year,
Oh,
so
that's good to know.
that'll be.
but like part of that, you know, if Matt and you can
Mhm.
talk with the instructor that a field trip for
Yeah,
that
yeah.
class is to go down, you know, to arrange time to go down and see the recycling down on Neville Island there.
Mm.
And get some practical, real world experience with all that stuff and see what goes on.
And we could also like make that open to different clubs. The only thing with North Allegheny,
You might be limited on how many people they can take at a time.
it's not necessarily the people. We've had a lot of issues with transportation of
Mhm,
getting buses, and there's like a bus shortage.
right.
I will say that like students will do anything to get out of school. So if you're worried that we'll have a good number of people who are interested in going.
Right.
Kids who have like never cared about the environment before will be there. Definitely. But it's just the issue of like transportation and getting approval from not just teachers, but administration.
It's not a, you can't take 50 people through there at one time.
Right.
So, you know, to do this project that's due in June. To have a tour of the recycling, which is something that we also want to do. But not take away from school time. Can we do it for Martin Luther King Day or President's Day or something like that, or another school day that's an in-service day that's already listed on the calendar, that you would be willing to give up some of your time to go and do this and achieve your project. We get to go see something. You know, I know it's a work day. I don't, it's not a problem for me, but others might have to.
Me too.
Okay, so how in-service days worked, we had two this week actually, though it was
Mhm.
Monday and Tuesday. But when they're like together, like on a Monday or a Friday, parents and families, they go travel. So it has to be like on a Wednesday. So it has to be like 2 days of school in service, 2 days. So that way parents won't take off and kids won't miss school. And that would be like, if I could find a date that was effective that like you guys would agree with, that would be a good idea. So a Wednesday, that's an in-service day. With holidays, typically they tend to be Mondays, Fridays, around that range. And holidays are also like pre-planned incentives that people have in mind that they decide to make trips on. So
Okay, and I think it's certainly something worth exploring. I understand there's some limitations to being able to get students there. So,
yeah.
I mean, if that's a part of it, great. If not, I'm sure there's still a good bit we can do with education and
Mhm.
recycling and
Mhm.
and all that. So, yeah, definitely work with Matt to put a, proposal or program together of, what you're planning to do. Any thoughts, Matt?
I think it sounds great. I would say one of my suggestions was going to be to possibly go through. I don't know, Archie, are you involved in Goal at all?
Yes.
So possibly through Goal. I know a lot of the field trips that I went on wound up being through that,
Mhm.
and they were able to kind of do like hey, we have a 10-person, sign up that we can do, and it was they needed smaller transportation since we can't take a ton of people through anyway.
Yeah.
That may be a route to follow. I was also going to suggest a day that there isn't school, but I understand the same problems that you're talking about. Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to look into. I mean, I also think that if for some reason we can't work this out, this still sounds like a project that can be done without the tour,
Yeah, I agree.
if need be, but it would be better if we could do it. So
This might be a stretch, but it's an idea I'll throw out. And that is maybe to get volunteers in the future, we need to seed the younger kids. So there's Goal in the elementary schools. And maybe if we can get some kind of interesting program where a presenter would come in and talk to them about recycling and cleaning the environment, that by the time they get old enough to the high school, they might want to kind of naturally gravitate to helping us.
I was like thinking of when I was doing this project, or at least the idea, a part of it is research so that I can like understand exactly how it works. But then another idea would be to host those kind of events and to like start something that like when I leave, essentially, that this
Yeah,
is still
like-
able to like exist and continue, and that like if we can get preschoolers and like really, really young children just to have like an idea, they don't have to know the whole thing. By the time as they get older, they're like they know more and more and more. And then when they come here and eventually sit in this position, they're like, oh, I know and I have this experience because I've been taught it since I was like 5 years old. And that's essentially the hope, right? That people are educated well enough, because if you educate parents, it's like I heard the saying, if you educate a woman, you educate her whole family. So it's like if you educate parents, you educate children. As they get older, it's like you're educating a community.
Okay, no,
Well,
that sounds great.
And you know who younger kids love to listen to is older kids. And so
Yeah,
actually you gaining this knowledge and then you imparting it to younger kids, going to the middle school and talking to the goal kids there, going to the elementary school and talking to the goal kids there, or any of the kids. I when I was a teacher, one of my projects was having my high school kids do a research project and then turn that into a lesson that they took to an elementary school and then taught. And those younger kids pay attention when the older kids are talking way more than they do to teachers, because they look up to them and they're like, I want to be like that person. And it's a great educational kind of method. And I find that when you're teaching something, you learn it better than even when you're learning it. So
Yeah.
it gives you an opportunity, and maybe other people that you want to bring in on this. Maybe you put together a group of 5 people and you're all going out to different schools and talking, and it's a 15-minute program that you put together. I don't know how you want to do it, but that's a possibility as well.
Excellent.
It's great.
And then I have like my article and my tip that I have to do by June. I have not considered anything for either of those. I think the article might come out after, like much later. And then for the tip, if you ever need me to write anything, let me know. But yeah, I probably won't have any of this done till like December.
Yeah, and no, that's fine. That's fine. We've got time, and yeah, we didn't anticipate you having to write a tip right away.
Yeah.
You can get a chance to see some of the ones we do and the topics we talk about. And don't worry, we'll hit you up for that 1 month when we're in need of a tip. So
Archie,
Okay.
do you know if they have somebody in line to teach that AP environmental science class by any chance? Or?
Oh, I don't know. I'm really trying to like think of names, but I do remember they brought it up and I was super excited about it because I was surprised they were gonna do it. But yeah, I don't really know how it's gonna go either. Like next year's the first year, and I'll be a senior next year, so I can take it, which is really cool. But that's we'll find
That
someone.
was a class that I taught for 8 years, so I
Oh, okay.
I thought that's where you're going.
gonna be looking into that. So
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much. Next we have community outreach. We have Winterfest on the agenda. I'm sorry to see that Dawn's not here. Because I know, Matt, you've got some great ideas for your game show portion of that, but we really need to have a discussion with Dawn to kind of get this moving. The date is December 2nd. Sorry, I did not put that on the agenda. And I know we had some questions as to whether we were going to decorate the Christmas tree. There's a lot that'll need to be done to staff a table there. So we may have to schedule a meeting on the side here of everyone interested.
We now have a coordinator with the town, so
Right, and
just run it through Angela.
Right, Angela, so it's the same, and generally Dawn is in touch with, I think she's
Should
been
be
in
able to
touch,
lead
I
you
think
into
Dawn
it.
has been in touch with her as a matter of fact.
I probably won't be able to come to Winterfest. Heads
Okay.
up. I have a competition that day.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Yeah.
that's,
Oh, sorry.
no, that's fine. We can't all do everything.
So do we want to start a little email chain and get a call together and
Yeah, I think we
Zoom
need to do
call
that.
to sort of, okay, because
Um,
it's going to
yeah.
come around and
Is that okay with you, Matt?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to discuss it as soon as possible. Honestly, I've started putting together ideas for, I mean,
Right.
speaking of recycling, it's going to be a recycling game show. So,
Yeah.
I have ideas. It's just a matter of figuring out how much space we have, what the layout can be.
Right,
Can we be in a place where we will actually be heard versus,
exactly, yeah. Yeah.
not, because if we can't be heard, it's not going to work.
Right,
Really.
right. Yeah, Matt had 2 questions for me and one was budget for prizes, which I think we can work that out. We'll discuss, what type of prizes we're looking at and
Mhm.
can we either get our own PA system or get away from the speakers of the PA system? So I think that's something we need to work out with Angela. We can get in touch with her and see what our options are. Because you're right, where we've been the last 2 between Winterfest last year and Community Day, right next to the speakers. So it's very difficult to have a lot of outreach when you can't you can't hear each other. So we'll
Yeah. I think I've found a way that we can do it if we had like some speakers and a microphone, that would be amazing. That will make things
Okay.
a lot better, but we only need one. We won't need one for like everybody or anything like that, based on the way that I am picturing it right now.
okay.
And I may be able to get something like that, like a portable type of thing, but how powerful it is versus, a DJ or
Oh.
a band or something like that, I don't know. That'd be
Well,
true.
and
And I
we don't
don't know
want-
that I can get it either. I have some connections that might lend it to
Right.
me, or they might be like, no. So-
And we don't want to be competing either.
Right,
So
right,
we need to
exactly.
Make sure we need to be positioned in the right place. Okay, we'll set something up. Who wants to be involved in calls to discuss this? Just Matt, you, me and Dawn.
Throw me in there too.
Are you sure?
Sure.
Throw me in.
Okay.
Okay, well then I'll get in touch with Dawn and see, throw some times out there.
It is the
But yeah.
season of lights, so.
Okay. But yeah, that's gonna come up fast.
Yeah, that's the thing. And certainly the principals are, Matt and Dawn and you. So it sounds like you guys have good ideas. So I'm at least doesn't sound like I can add a lot other than maybe just a few
Well-
random thoughts.
Yeah, but in manpower, because it takes.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll definitely be there for that.
And I guess we'll need to know that here fairly soon, and I'll send an email out who's available to work that day. What are the hours, John? Do you know?
I believe it's gonna be 4 to 7.
Okay. No, that's not too bad. Okay. Yeah, we'll take care of that in a side meeting. Anybody have any other questions or comments on Winterfest?
I won't be there, but I can help with anything you need me to.
That'd be great, because I know Dawn may want some help with crafts or even just with ideas. So
Like-
we'll make sure you're,
I love planning things, so I don't mind.
okay. All right, thanks.
Matt, what was that thing you were gonna ask your friend for? What did you need?
Like an AV, like speakers and a microphone type of thing.
Here's my friend.
But again, as Judy said, like, I don't want to be like, we want this to be something that is entertaining and fun and people like. We do not want to be the annoying people in the back that everybody is like, I wish they would shut up. You know what I mean? So we have to just make sure that we figure out a way that we're loud enough that the people who want to hear us can, and we're not intruding into
Right.
other people's,
Right.
whatever.
Okay, yeah, so we'll have to be in touch with Angela to find out what they've already got. If they're gonna be playing music through the whole thing or what's
Yeah,
going
I mean, ideally, we would have like a space for it. You know what I mean? Where we
Mhm.
weren't sitting right next to somebody else who's trying to explain things to people, or
Right.
something like that. But I don't. And I'm picturing this as like a 10-minute type of thing that gets run 4 or 5 times during the event.
Right.
Is
Okay.
how I'm seeing it. So we wouldn't be doing it continuously. It would just be like 10-minute bursts,
Right,
throughout.
right.
So that's
Every half hour or something. Okay,
exactly, yes. That's starting at 4:30 and then running it like 5 times, I think, for
Okay.
10 minutes each time.
okay,
So I'm picturing it now.
okay. Thank you. Catch basin decal updates. I have everything that Jack gave me. I've kind of gone through all the supplies. We've got tons. I put together, Ms. Lombardi asked for some some extra decals and adhesive, because there's still some interest, so Archie's got a bag of stuff to take. I think I gave her 50, I think I gave you 50 decals and 6 tubes of adhesive. I've also got a box together for, I think his name is Theo Tedesco, who Dawn had been in touch with. He reached out to us, he's from Fox Chapel, actually, heard about this program and wanted to help us put decals down. So I put together some maps and some lists of streets, which I think are all pretty much in your neighborhood, Jeff.
Okay.
Things that were paved this year. So I'll get back with Dawn to find out how I can get those supplies out. But in the meantime, we've got tons. So, we'll start thinking about how to keep that program going. All right. Any other community outreach things I'm missing? If not, on to miscellaneous items, McMail tips. We've already discussed that. Thank you, Ken. I'm going to take care of getting that going for us. EAC position update. John, you mentioned that we did not have any applicants. So is that going to open back up again? How will that work?
Basically advertise again.
Okay.
I mean, officially, they'll take an application anytime, but I think it's still customary to advertise again in a
Right.
couple weeks.
Okay. And I think we have several folks. We just need to reach out. Everybody think about so I know I had somebody actually talk to me last year at one of our speaker series events, and I neglected to reach out to her, and I will do that now. Okay, and is that posted? Are the dates posted, or are we?
Not
That-
yet.
that's
There's
not
other
out yet.
positions that are advertised right now.
So, yeah, they just kind of keep
I don't
rolling.
want to fill up the front page, the home page too much because there's only so much space.
Exactly. Any thoughts? Will that wait till like after Thanksgiving, or?
I mean, I'd like to do it sooner rather than later.
Okay.
personally, but it's
All right,
just-
if you could let me know when you think maybe that will go out. then
I'm
I
hoping
can-
within the next week.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
then I'll look out for that, okay. Proposed budget, any issues with that, Jack?
No, you're
So
good.
we have a formal
You have-
budget then?
Yep, line item.
All
Well, it has to
right.
be voted on by council.
Oh,
but it's
okay,
gonna be
so it's-
$1,000.
It's about $1,000.
Yes,
You
Right
said it has,
now.
okay, you said it has to be voted on by council.
we have to approve the budget. This is just a preliminary. budget.
Gotcha. Okay. But we can do things
Work
the way
towards
we
that.
always have.
Yeah.
It's just now we have a line item to pull from.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Before, you were spending that money, it just came out of all these different,
Right.
so it's just a little bit more accountable.
Okay. And thank you, John. I got the check today for all of my items. That went really fast. So if anybody else has any outstanding receipts from events we've done in the past several months, I have a feeling Dawn probably does. Get them to me, get them to John, so you can get reimbursed. All right, any other questions on that budget? Okay, next report from town council. Anything else, Jack?
Well, tonight, Carolyn Schweiger had resigned on October the 9th.
Mhm.
And we have 45 days in which to interview and come up with a new replacement or it goes to the county courts. So we had our meeting today, this evening. And we've selected a new councilperson for Ward 6.
That is my word.
Okay, so you-
Interested to find
I
out.
think you'd be very happy.
Okay, good. Very good. See, and I see we did have a visitor attend. We normally put public comments at the beginning. I don't know, are you Bernie? Hi, Bernie. Thank you for joining us. You missed, I actually gave the group a little introduction to our conversation, and I tried to summarize your talents and your positions and how you might be able to help. I don't know if you have anything that you want to talk to us about, or you're just here kind of looking.
I mean, it's willing to be a resource.
Right.
Even in some of the conversations tonight,
Mhm.
working every day, telling them, he raised the cycle. Or bio-leaching for critical.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to tour, an electronic waste. happy to arrange that for you and anyone. I can talk to him every day.
Okay.
We could do that, and he's the Lord of one in 6 days. That's where PRC would take them.
Okay.
So, you know. But anyway, no, I mean, I feel like there is so much that I heard tonight that, you know, really, you guys do great work. And I never knew you were here, and thank you for here. My house anytime.
How much property do you have?
I said 3 lots,
You do?
3 lots,
But they're Graybrook lots, they're quarter acre lots, yeah.
Okay.
You know, a pretty tight community, but because I have 3 lots on a hillside.
The problem is when you shoot a deer with an arrow, it can run 60, 80 yards.
we want to do that.
So
Game commission comes at least once or twice a year. to find out. I have a massive stone wall and they jump into it and then they can't get out. They break their legs. And so
oh,
the coyotes are on the hill and they hit them in there, so I'm looking all the time.
oh my.
I've witnessed about the picture of being born, so my stone wall lot is in a phase, your sanctuary. So, anyway.
Maybe we need more stone walls in town.
And coyotes.
We have them. They're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Kind words. And yeah, I feel like, you know, anything I can do, ever to be, you know, support that are funding. I raise money for a living. You know, and I work with the state, I'm on the Pennsylvania Energy Development Authority board. I think we're about to get about $1 billion from the federal government to the solar, about 400 million solar and kind of other programs that are coming online.
Is that money earmarked?
It's not yet. It will be available and, you know, there will be ways for municipal projects, residential, solar, as well as other. But I, you know, having served as director of grants and development with the city of Pittsburgh and the Honor Administration, I feel like there's a lot of state and federal funds that municipalities reach out to, and those are the kind of things where I'm happy to start heads up with. Is to bring resources in the community. That's been my emphasis for us. We have to do that.
Sorry, Matt, can you hear any of this? No? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, if we're gonna have much more conversation, we'll have to have you step up, but didn't want to put you up on the hot seat, so.
The last thing, I when in working with Bob O'Connor, we did something called the Red Oak campaign.
Why don't you step up and use the speaker up
Oh,
here?
really?
That way the people that are on the screen.
That's just so Matt, or you can, you know, sit next to me or.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I remember the Red Up campaign. I remember the Red Up campaign.
Oh, do you?
I do.
So, and the way we did that, that was kind of my idea. Because Bob had campaigned on the concept of cleaning up the city. So the excuse that we used, you know, in my view, the way that worked is he was the champion. He wanted to clean the city up for the Major League Baseball event we were hosting that year.
Yeah, with the All-Star game.
The All-Star
All-Star
game,
game. yep,
right,
I remember.
right.
Use that as the excuse, because that was in June, July. And so we used that as the excuse to kind of galvanize everybody.
Mhm.
But I was the one who insisted we call it Red Up. Because it was like the
Mhm.
catchy phrase with a champion. And then Dick Scringer was a great PR guy and he
Mhm.
did, you know, billboards and Bob with a broom and he went to all the neighborhoods and, but I
Mhm.
think that was like a Tom Sawyer approach of, I mean, people, because I had to take the calls. People throughout the state would call and say, we're cleaning up our neighborhood, we're cleaning up our yard, we're cleaning up, you know, we were getting calls from whole Southwest region.
Mhm.
So I kind of look at that as, you know, how do you succeed in doing that? And I think that approach of find a champion, you know, who's your, if you don't have a leader, can you get a sports figure? You know, is there a way to,
Yeah.
and so instead of like trying to drag people, how do you compel them?
Right.
But our approach was just clean up your you know, even just clean up your own yard, right? Clean up your sidewalk, clean up your street.
Mhm.
And so instead of it being a singular event, it's a pride thing, you know,
right.
instill pride and still a sense of community. But clean and safe was, you know, something I learned from him. The fundamentals of everything are clean and safe.
Mhm.
And I don't think I ever understood that until I worked with him. But
Yeah,
but I think people, those are the basics. You can do those.
Yeah.
Anyway, but things like that, happy to, you know, share some of the experiences I've had with
yeah.
galvanizing an entire community to go do it.
Mhm.
So when can you start?
Because I guess you heard, we do still have the opening on, on the committee as well, and I know, well, I'll give you the information just in case you feel like it.
Yeah,
like to
yeah, and
apply.
I think, you know, Judy, you know, you suggest that I come and see how, you know, the
Mhm.
fit and the feel and, you know, but yeah, you guys are a great group and, you know, and as somebody who's lived here for 10 years, because I was in Mount Washington for 33, just thank you because, I mean, I know this is hard. I feel like everything that you're doing, they're all the things I care about and, you know,
Okay.
I have
so.
one question.
Mhm.
Have you walked our trail?
I haven't.
I was trying to explain to her where it
You
is.
need to do
Yes,
that.
and that's part of like what's wrong with, you know, moving here and then kind of going through the pandemic. I feel like I just don't know
Mhm.
the neighborhood, like, but I walk my neighborhood every day. But yeah, I don't go out on the trails, but, and mainly the ticks. I mean.
Yeah.
You
Ticks really aren't an issue if you're on a trail.
know,
It's when you get into the
The grass.
barberry and grass on the sides that you get. On the trail,
Yeah.
you're pretty safe.
yeah, because I've done the Rachel Carson Trail and, you know, some of those that are a little bit more, you know, in Heartwood, you know, so some of the trails there, and I used to take my dog who isn't here anymore, but I would find dozens of ticks, so that's kind of why I stayed away from trails, but I love trail walking. You know, in the city, I did trail riding, bike riding,
Right.
every weekend, so, but I haven't done bike riding since I moved here 10 years ago.
Oh my, and the trails are amazing, in North Park and.
I know,
What
and
is
I have
Deer
4
Lake.
bikes sitting in my garage, not moving,
Yeah.
so I'm with you.
No, I thought that, I've also heard you were associated with sustainability.
Yes,
And so I'm the project manager for sustainability for the gold status. That we hold right now for McCandless, and we're ready to sort of, reapply for the gold status or platinum should we get there, but. If you joined a committee,
Mhm.
I wouldn't look for you to do anything more than just sort of advise us on how to maybe get to platinum. I think we'll choose
Sure.
gold, but to get to platinum.
Sure, I mean, I'm familiar with the municipal system that got put in place, but before LEED existed,
Yeah.
I was in sustainability before LEED, so I remember going to the USGBC conference that year and
Mhm.
they introduced LEED and we used to tease about, you know, needing a standard, like, you know, you had to just know this stuff, so,
Mhm.
but, you know, turns out checklists are good, so
Yeah.
they are good guides. So yeah, I feel like you know, from the time when there were no standards to the development of probably dozens of them now, you know, I've been involved with building them, developing them.
Yeah, the
Um,
site is good. The
Yeah.
the different pods. And we're sort of getting through those and answering those questions and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be happy to. I used to teach sustainability
Mhm.
and have developed a few models. Sustainable Main Street was a model that we developed. And again, I always say this was a past life. You know, I kind of the work I've been doing is more with startups,
Mhm.
you know, and scaling them. But oddly enough, right now the work I've been doing in, you know, critical mineral recovery in waste streams. So whether it's industrial waste, mine waste, or e-waste, that's been the work for the last 20 months I've been doing with several startups here in Pittsburgh that were CMU spinoffs and methods of, you know, bioleaching is the extreme, you know,
Mhm.
because it's completely clean and then chemical processes, everybody's trying to figure out how to do less harm, but
Mm-hmm.
still do the recovery. So, but that's, sustainability to me has always been the balance of all three things. So, yeah, so I understand it and, and yeah, I think, it's a wonderful model. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
but
not
I-
sure I understand it as well, but but I'm learning fast.
Well, my favorite, if you want to know, there's a group out of Sweden, and I was invited to be there it was the King of Sweden on the 15th anniversary of them adopting their voluntary principles as a nation. And they're called the Natural Step Principles. But I was lucky enough to be invited to be there for that. And they had other nations sign on, like Canada, New Zealand, I think 15 countries signed on. So it was Natural Step Principles. Nation of Sweden uses them. But what I like about them is there's only 4 principles. It's really easy. And the gentleman who developed them, it's really a smart man. The best thing,
I'm sure.
Yeah, he was an oncologist who saw people die,
Mhm.
and he would tell them that they were gonna die, and they would say, well, what could I have done? So he literally took 8 years of his life to figure that out.
Mhm.
And that truly is what sustainability is, it's human sustainability and, the balance of all those things.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Great topic, though.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Sorry, I didn't mean to kind of put you
I
on the
know.
spot there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. I
Yeah, well, nice
appreciate
meeting you
that.
all. I mean, just again, I really respect community work, so thank you.
Mhm.
All right, topics for next month's meeting. I think Jeff had a great idea. We need to, I set some time aside to start thinking about and setting some goals for 2024. I know the next month we're gonna be working on getting Winterfest going and, so whether we want to. Do we want to just look ahead and say that's going to be the main purpose of our January meeting? Because once we get into the holidays, I know a lot of our projects just kind of, we all
Yeah.
kind of take time for family and not worried about so much of this. So my thinking was maybe we make the January meeting, that's what January meeting's about,
Mhm.
is setting some goals. But in the meantime, we start thinking about the projects we're working on, things that we want to work on that, or maybe what I'll do next month is just I can kind of go down the list of some things we've done. Whether we want to keep doing them, I don't know, help me.
Mhm. Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, and you've always had on the back of, this agenda, sort of what other people can't see, you had,
Right.
these legacy projects.
Right, I do, no one sees my draft except for Jeff and
Yeah.
John normally, but I do keep a running list of the projects that have been, in the past year or two. We've worked on, we've talked about, maybe nobody's really championing them right now, but I'm trying not to forget about them.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I bring that list to the next meeting or send it out ahead, and then we can all be thinking so that January we can
I like that.
really have some thoughts and goals and guidance for next year.
Because Branch Trail will clean up, dare management will probably slow down for a while, right?
Into January.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. So I mean, it's something we could just say as a group, these are our priorities for next year.
Right.
And, who wants to be involved in this and, we can have a healthy debate about, maybe Ryan has a priority and maybe we need to really sort of say, is that the priority of the group, or I have one and maybe that's not the priority of the group, and we can as a group, set standards and goals.
okay, and that ties into, and then maybe what I do is generally January, I put together the annual report from this year. And that tends to kind of get into those legacy projects as well. So maybe that's what I'll do is I'll hopefully get a head start on the report for this year and the list of legacy projects, and at least have the information out to you at the next meeting for discussion in January.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right, any other topics that we need to put on the list?
I'd like to add just that we do a debrief of Winterfest just go over what went well,
Oh,
what didn't go well, and what we want to carry over to the next year or not.
Definitely.
I think if we can start with these events, kind of logging exactly what we did and what we want to keep and what we don't, it's going to make the planning for the next ones easier. And especially if any of us, is not around for that next one, at least there's a record and they can say, oh, here's what they did and here's how they did it. And, I think setting up a kind of standard operating procedure for those types of things is going to be helpful.
Okay,
moving
that's a
forward.
good idea. We'll have that on there. Very good. Okay, if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Ryan, I want to let you know, I looked it up and there are no ticks that have wings. So
They're like tick-like. They're not
Yeah,
ticks. They're like some plants they still carry.
they're weevils and they do not carry any disease and they are not harmful to humans.
Oh, really?